The bank statement arrived on a Tuesday morning in March, addressed to me as the primary account holder of the Marcus Davidson Trust Fund. I'd been receiving these monthly statements for 3 years, ever since my 22nd birthday when I'd legally assumed full control of the trust my grandfather had established for me. Balance: $247.83. I stared at the number, certain there had been some mistake. The previous month's balance had been $200,247.83. Someone had withdrawn exactly $200,000 from my trust fund. I logged into the online banking portal using my credentials that only I and my financial advisor were supposed to have. The transaction history showed a single wire transfer dated March 15th. Transfer to Davidson family account $200,000, authorized by Richard Davidson, trustee. Richard Davidson, my stepfather of 12 years who had exactly zero legal authority over my trust fund and hadn't been a trustee since my grandfather's death in 2019. The family group chat was unusually active that morning. Mom was posting photos of their new RV, a luxury motorhome that probably cost around $200,000. Richard surprised me with early retirement, she'd written. We're going to travel the country. My half-sister Emma, Richard's daughter from his first marriage, had commented with multiple heart eye emojis. Dad is the best. Can't wait to visit you guys at all the cool places. My half-brother Jake had added, finally. Mom deserves this after everything she's been through. Everything she's been through. They meant my father's death when I was 13, and the subsequent financial struggles before Mom married Richard. What they didn't mention was that those struggles had ended when I turned 18 and began receiving income distributions from my trust fund. Money that had helped pay for their house down payment, Jake's college tuition, and Emma's private school fees. I screenshot everything before calling the bank. First National Trust Department, this is Jennifer. This is Marcus Davidson. I need to speak with someone about unauthorized access to my trust fund immediately. Let me transfer you to our fraud department, Mr. Davidson. The fraud specialist, David Chin, reviewed my account while I waited. Mr. Davidson, I'm looking at the transaction you're referring to. It shows authorization from Richard Davidson, who's listed in our system as a secondary trustee. Richard Davidson has not been a trustee since 2019. I have the legal documentation removing him from that role after my grandfather's death. Sir, our records show him as still having trustee authority. Do you have documentation of his removal? I have everything. Court orders, probate documents, and signed agreements. Richard Davidson has no legal authority over my trust fund. Then we have a problem. This appears to be embezzlement of trust assets. David walked me through the process of filing a formal complaint. Internal investigation would begin immediately, law enforcement would be contacted, and all remaining assets would be frozen to prevent further unauthorized access. How long has Mr. Davidson had access to your account? I pulled up my records. He was added as a secondary trustee in 2011 when he married my mother. He was supposed to be removed in 2019 when I became sole trustee, but it appears that never happened on the bank's end. Has he made other unauthorized transactions? I spent the next hour going through 3 years of statements with David. Richard had been systematically skimming smaller amounts, $5,000 here, $10,000 there, for the entire time. The total came to $347,000 over 3 years. Mr. Davidson, this is felony embezzlement. We're required to report this to federal authorities immediately. Good. That evening, I drove to my parents' house for our regular Tuesday family dinner. Mom was in the kitchen humming while she cooked, occasionally glancing out the window at the new RV parked in their driveway. Marcus. Perfect timing. Richard's just showing Jake the new RV. Isn't it amazing? Through the window I could see my stepfather giving Jake a tour of their $200,000 purchase. My $200,000 purchase, technically. It's very nice. How did you afford it? Mom's expression shifted slightly. Well, Richard's been planning this for years. Saving and investing. He's always been so good with money. Richard came through the back door with Jake trailing behind him, both of them grinning like they'd just won the lottery. Marcus. Come see the RV. Fully loaded. Satellite TV, full kitchen, memory foam mattress. We got a great deal on it. How great. $200,000 for a rig that would normally cost $250. The dealer was motivated to sell. I nodded. That's interesting. Where did the 200,000 come from? The kitchen went quiet. Mom stopped stirring the pasta sauce. Jake looked between Richard and me, sensing tension he couldn't identify. From savings, Richard said carefully. Years of careful financial planning. What kind of savings? Investment accounts. Retirement funds. Various sources. I pulled out my phone and opened the bank app, holding it so Richard could see the screen clearly. Is one of those sources my trust fund? Richard's face went pale, then red, then back to pale. Mom set down the wooden spoon and turned around slowly. What are you talking about? She asked. Someone withdrew $200,000 from my trust fund yesterday. The same day you bought a $200,000 RV. Richard cleared his throat. Marcus, we need to talk about family responsibilities. That trust fund was set up when you were a child, but you're an adult now. Family priorities change. Family priorities? Your mother and I have worked hard our entire lives. We've supported you, helped you through college, given you a home and family. It's time for that investment to pay dividends to the people who earned it. I stared at him. You think you earned my grandfather's money? I think real children deserve that money more than someone who isn't even blood family, Richard said, his voice gaining confidence as he spoke. Your grandfather is dead. Your mother is my wife. This family's financial decisions should benefit the people who actually belong here. The silence stretched for what felt like minutes but was probably only seconds. Mom looked horrified. Jake looked confused. Richard looked like a man who had just realized he'd said something unforgivable but was too proud to back down. I calmly replied, interesting perspective. Then I walked out of the kitchen, got in my car and drove home to make a phone call. U.S. Attorney's Office, Eastern District, how may I direct your call? I need to speak with someone about felony embezzlement of trust assets. The federal prosecutor I spoke with, Assistant U.S. Attorney Sarah Martinez, reviewed the basic facts over the phone. Mr. Davidson, do you have documentation of your sole authority over the trust? Complete documentation. Court orders, bank agreements, everything. And the person who took the money? My stepfather. No legal relationship to me, no authority over the trust, and clear knowledge that he was stealing. He essentially confessed an hour ago. How much money are we talking about? 200,000 in the most recent theft, but preliminary investigation shows approximately 350,000 total over 3 years. That's multiple federal felony charges. Are you prepared to prosecute your stepfather? I thought about Richard's words. Real children deserve this money more. You're not even blood family. The casual way he'd stolen from me while sitting at family dinners, accepting my help with his mortgage payments, and pretending to care about my future. I'm prepared to prosecute. I'll need you to come in tomorrow with all your documentation. We'll start the formal investigation immediately. I spent that evening organizing 3 years of financial records. Bank statements, trust documents, legal papers establishing my sole authority over the fund, and screenshots of every suspicious transaction. My phone rang constantly. Mom, Jake, Emma, even some extended family members who'd apparently heard about the family emergency. I let every call go to voicemail. The voicemails were illuminating. Mom crying and asking me to work this out as a family. Jake confused and asking if I was really going to call the cops on Dad. Emma furious, leaving a message that I was destroying the family over money, and that Dad deserves that money after everything he's done for us. Everything he's done for us. Like stealing from me for 3 years while I helped pay his mortgage, his children's expenses, and his family vacations. Wednesday morning I met with AUSA Martinez at the federal building downtown. She was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who specialized in white-collar crime. Mr. Davidson, I've reviewed the documentation you sent over. This is one of the clearest cases of trust embezzlement I've seen. Your stepfather had no legal authority, clear knowledge that he was stealing, and he's made statements that amount to confessions. What happens now? We open a formal federal investigation. FBI will execute search warrants for financial records, interview witnesses, and build the criminal case. Given the amount involved and the duration of the theft, we're looking at significant prison time. How significant? Embezzlement of this magnitude typically carries 10 to 20 years in federal prison. The fact that he violated a fiduciary relationship as a family member could be an aggravating factor. Martinez walked me through the process. Investigation would take several weeks, during which they'd trace every stolen dollar and build an airtight case. Richard would be arrested once the investigation was complete, probably at his workplace to maximize the impact. Are you certain you want to proceed? Prosecuting family members is emotionally difficult. I thought about the new RV in their driveway, purchased with my grandfather's money while Richard lectured me about not being real family. I thought about 3 years of systematic theft while I'd helped with their expenses out of genuine love for my mother and half-siblings. He stole from me for 3 years and then told me I didn't deserve the money because I'm not blood family. Family doesn't steal from each other, which means he stopped being family the moment he committed his first theft. Good. Victims who are clear about their position make stronger witnesses. That evening, Mom showed up at my apartment. She looked like she hadn't slept and her eyes were red from crying. Marcus, please. You can't do this to our family. I didn't do anything to our family. Richard did. He made a mistake. People make mistakes. Stealing $350,000 over 3 years isn't a mistake. It's a crime spree. You don't understand the pressure he's been under. Work stress, financial stress, planning for retirement. He wasn't thinking clearly. I poured myself a glass of water and sat down across from her. Mom, he told me yesterday that real children deserve my money more than I do because I'm not blood family. Does that sound like someone who wasn't thinking clearly, or someone who planned this theft and felt entitled to it? She was quiet for a long moment. He didn't mean it the way it sounded. How did he mean it? He's proud. He doesn't like feeling like he can't provide for his family. So he stole from his stepson instead of getting a better job or managing his money responsibly. Marcus, if you prosecute him, he'll go to prison. Our family will be destroyed. The family was destroyed the moment he decided I wasn't real family and started stealing from me. I've just made it official. She cried then, really cried, and I felt terrible for her. She was caught between her husband's crimes and her son's need for justice. But feeling terrible for her didn't change the facts. I've been helping you financially for years, I told her gently. I've paid for Jake's college, Emma's school fees, part of your mortgage and family vacations. All while Richard was stealing from me and telling himself I didn't deserve my own money. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know he was taking money from your trust. But you knew we were living beyond your means. You knew Richard's salary couldn't support the lifestyle you were living. You just chose not to ask questions. The investigation moved quickly. FBI agents interviewed me twice, reviewed all my financial records and traced every dollar Richard had stolen. They found that he'd used my trust fund money for the RV, a down payment on a vacation house in Florida, private school tuition for Emma, and a luxury car for himself. 3 weeks after I filed the complaint, they were ready to make arrests. Mr. Davidson, we'll be arresting your stepfather tomorrow morning at his office. We wanted to give you advance notice in case your family contacts you. The call came at 9:23 a.m. on a Thursday. Mom hysterical. They arrested Richard at work. FBI agents. Everyone saw. They're saying embezzlement, money laundering, wire fraud. Marcus, you have to stop this. I can't stop it, Mom. Richard committed federal crimes. But they're talking about 20 years in prison. 20 years, Marcus. That's what happens when you steal $350,000 from your stepson and spend it on toys. Please. I'm begging you. Work something out. Drop the charges. Anything. I can't drop federal charges, Mom. The government is prosecuting now, not me. Richard called from jail that evening, using his one phone call to contact me instead of a lawyer. Marcus, we need to talk man to man. We did that already. You told me real children deserve my money more than I do. I was angry. I said things I didn't mean. Which part didn't you mean? The part about stealing my money or the part about me not being real family? Silence. Then, look, I can pay it back. We can sell the RV, the Florida place, everything. Make this right without involving the courts. You had 3 years to make it right. Instead you stole more. I'm your stepfather. I've been in your life for 12 years. And you've been stealing from me for 3 of them. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for the following month. Richard's attorney, a public defender named Patricia Webb, requested a meeting with me and the prosecutor to discuss a plea deal. My client is prepared to plead guilty to embezzlement charges in exchange for a reduced sentence, she explained. Full restitution plus interest and penalties. What kind of reduced sentence? Martinez asked. 5 years federal prison, 3 years supervised probation. Martinez looked at me. It's your call, Mr. Davidson. We can take this to trial and likely get the full 20 years, or accept a plea that guarantees conviction and restitution. I thought about it for exactly 10 seconds. What guarantees do I have that he'll actually pay restitution? Court-ordered wage garnishment, asset seizure, and supervision by federal probation officers, Webb replied. He'll be required to pay 25% of all income directly to you until the debt is satisfied. Plus interest and penalties? Plus interest and penalties. Approximately $460,000 total. Richard would spend 5 years in federal prison and the next 15 years paying me back every penny he'd stolen plus interest. His credit would be destroyed, his career would be over, and his reputation would never recover. I'll accept the plea. The sentencing hearing was held 6 weeks later. Richard looked smaller somehow, wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs, surrounded by federal marshals. Mom sat in the front row crying quietly. Jake and Emma refused to even look at me. Judge Patricia Morrison reviewed the case before imposing sentence. Mr. Davidson, you violated the fundamental trust between family members by systematically embezzling money from your stepson's trust fund. You used your position as a family member to gain access to these accounts, then stole money that was meant to secure the victim's future. She paused, looking directly at Richard. Your statements to the victim, that real children deserve this money more, and that he was not even blood family, demonstrate not just criminal intent, but a shocking lack of empathy for someone you claimed to love as a son. The sentence: 5 years in federal prison, 3 years supervised probation, and full restitution of $463,000. After the hearing, Mom approached me in the courthouse hallway. Are you satisfied now? She asked. Your stepfather is going to prison, our family is destroyed, and for what? Money. For justice, I replied. And it's not my stepfather going to prison. It's the man who stole from me for 3 years and then told me I didn't deserve my own inheritance because I'm not blood family. He's still my husband. Then you married a thief. 6 months later, I received the first restitution payment, $247.83, exactly the amount left in my trust fund after Richard's theft, garnished from his prison wages. At 25 cents per hour for prison labor, Richard would be working for the next 92,000 hours to pay me back. That's roughly 46 years of full-time work. I used the money to buy a stamp and mail him a thank you note. Dear Richard, I wrote. Thank you for the first installment on your debt. Only $462,752.17 to go. I hope you're learning valuable job skills in prison. You'll need them for the next several decades. Sincerely, your stepson who apparently isn't real family. Some people might say I was too harsh. That family should forgive and forget. That money isn't worth destroying relationships over. But those people didn't spend 3 years being systematically robbed by someone who claimed to love them while believing they didn't deserve their own inheritance. Richard taught me an important lesson about family. It's not about blood relations or legal marriages. Real family doesn't steal from each other. Real family doesn't look you in the eye and tell you that you don't deserve what's rightfully yours. Real family protects each other, supports each other, and respects each other. Richard failed all 3 tests. His 5-year federal prison sentence was just the final grade.